Welcome to the podcast, everyone. Today we're diving into English phrasal verbs, especially those you can use when traveling, like at airports or hotels.
Yeah, right. So these are the little combinations of verbs and prepositions that totally change how a word works. It's like, take off doesn't just mean, to remove clothing. It means for an airplane to leave the ground.
Exactly. Absolutely. And they're super common in everyday conversation. I mean, if you travel around English-speaking countries, you'll be bombarded with phrases like check in or get on in all sorts of places, you know?
Yep. Yeah, and that brings up the point. Phrasal verbs can make it easier to follow directions. For example, at an airport, you'll hear a lot about checking in or even seeing off your friends.
Right, absolutely. For travelers, knowing these verbs is almost like having a secret key to smoother communication. Think about it. If your mind's wrapped around staying calm, even if you're not 100% sure what set off means, you'll be less stressed in an unfamiliar environment.
That's so true. Exactly. It's really not just about understanding instructions. It's about feeling confident when you're in a new place. Imagine having to navigate a busy hotel lobby and suddenly the instructions are check in at the hotel and get off at the right stop. It's vital.
And what I love about these lessons is how the examples stick. Like, take checkout. Most people know it as settling the bill at a hotel, but it's also so close to what we do in daily language. Yet here it's like
that's a cool way to
tailored
put
for
it.
travel.
And then there's set off, which means to begin a journey. It's so straight to the point, like we set off early to avoid traffic. Nothing fancy, just pure practicality.
True indeed. Right. And let's not forget get away. When someone says they need to get away for a few days, it's a light, catchy way to say they need a break. It's kind of fun. Almost like a mini escape plan in a
I
phrase.
get that. Totally. Now, while these phrases make travel smoother, there are also some common slip-ups that learners often make.
Right on. For instance, using the wrong preposition, like saying got on the car instead of got in the car. It's a small detail, but it can really throw off your message.
Yeah, it's those tiny things, really. Exactly. It's all about the nuances. And another classic error is with look forward to. A lot of people accidentally say, look forward to meet you, when it should be, look forward to meeting you.
Right. Yeah, and it's interesting because it highlights the importance of knowing when a phrasal verb requires certain forms. Like with pick up, you say picked his friend up, not picked up him. That little reordering makes all the difference.
Definitely. What about mixing up similar verbs like come back and go back? I find that stumbles a lot in conversation.
Oh, absolutely. Exactly. With come back, you speak from the perspective of the destination you're moving toward, whereas go back is used from the perspective of the departure point. It's subtle, but crucial for clarity.
That's a good catch. Yeah, and it's not just about vocabulary. It's like understanding the context we're in. This lesson really emphasizes that. Learning these can really boost your confidence when navigating new places.
True. And there's more. Even simple actions like get in and get on differ by the context. Get in is more for personal vehicles, while get on is used with, say, a bus or a train.
Right, totally. I remember hearing someone say, get on the car once, and it just struck me how clumsy it sounded.
Yeah, that mix-up can really confuse listeners. Absolutely, and it's why these nuances are so important. I mean, if you rely on them while traveling, you'll avoid potential misunderstandings in critical moments.
For sure. Now, I do want to challenge one idea here. Some say that memorizing lists of phrasal verbs is enough practice, but I think it's more about context, right?
I see where you're coming from. Yeah, exactly. Flashcards and lists help, of course, but nothing beats practicing them in conversation. Grouping them by theme or using them within mini stories really reinforces how to use them naturally.
Oh yes, that's key. So true. It's one thing to memorize check-in or take-off, but it's another to actively practice them around travel scenarios. How do you suggest we do that?
Well, think about creating your own travel story. Yeah, like imagine you're in a bustling airport. You need to check in, then wait for your flight to take off. And later, you'll touch down in an entirely new city. Building a narrative helps cement those phrases in your mind.
Right, it's like a mental simulation. Exactly. And it's fun too. You can even, pretend to check out of a hotel by saying something quirky like, time to check out. See you next time. To practice
That's a
the
neat
phrase
trick.
in a real context.
And let's not ignore the practicality. Using these in your everyday conversation while traveling not only makes you sound fluent, but also helps native speakers understand you better.
Absolutely. I mean, seriously, knowing that set off means starting a journey or get off means leaving a bus can make all the difference, especially in high-stress situations where instructions need to be followed promptly.
Very true. Exactly. A guide might say, "We set off at dawn to avoid the peak rush hour." In that moment, understanding that phrase ensures you're ready to move on time.
Right, it's all about timing. And on a lighter note, I love the phrase getaway. It's not just for travel. It's an invitation to relax, like a mini escape from daily routines.
Oh, absolutely. Totally. And it reminds me of how language evolves. Phrasal verbs like these become a part of our cultural lexicon, blending seamlessly into our dialogue.
Indeed, they do. Right. But I do want to bring up a potential critique. Some might argue that focusing too much on phrasal verbs oversimplifies language learning when there are more complex grammatical
I
structures
see your
at
point.
play.
Well, yeah, while phrasal verbs are just one piece of the puzzle, they're absolutely essential for communication in casual, everyday settings. Without them, conversations can feel stilted or overly formal.
Yeah, that's fair. That's true. They're like the icing on the cake of fluent conversation, except you need to get the cake right first.
Exactly. So, a good tip is to integrate phrasal verbs into your daily practice, whether you're prepping for a trip or just chatting with friends. Use flashcards, make a list, or even better, create mini travel stories to keep
Right
things
on.
fresh.
And another practical suggestion is to group these verbs by theme. For instance, all the ones related to, like transportation, get in, get on, get off, can be bundled together to make them easier to remember.
Yeah, it makes it more logical. Absolutely. It's like organizing your luggage before a trip. You want everything in its place so you can find it quickly when you need it.
Exactly, it's much more efficient. Indeed. And as you practice, these phrases start becoming second nature. Before you know it, you're navigating airports, buses, even hotel
spot
check-ins
on.
with ease.
Right. And all these small details, the right prepositions, the proper ordering, come together to create fluent, natural speech. It's the little building blocks of effective communication.
Absolutely. I think we've covered a lot of ground, from the basics of what phrasal verbs are to tips on avoiding common mistakes. It's a handy toolkit for anyone planning to travel in an English-speaking environment.
Definitely. For sure. With a bit of practice and a dash of creativity informing your mental travel stories, you'll pick up these verbs swiftly, making your journeys smoother.
Yeah, exactly. So here's to more confident travels and fluent conversations. Keep practicing, and soon enough these phrasal verbs will be, as natural as breathing when you're on the go.
Indeed. And that wraps it up for today. Safe travels and happy learning, everyone!
Cheers to that.